I got abs. I finally saw my abs for the very first time in my life. I'm looking lean. I'm in the best shape of my life by far. But it wasn't always like this. In fact, 5 months ago, I looked like this. I was in the worst shape of my life. I couldn't believe what was in the mirror. I didn't have any confidence at all in how I looked, and I knew I was just falling short of my full potential completely. So what exactly changed in my life for me to go from where I was 5 months ago to where I am today in the best shape of my life, for me to get visible abs? This is how to get abs. So I used to believe the myth that training abs get you abs, but unfortunately that isn't true. Yes, of course, abs are muscles sort of under the skin, but in order for you to get your abs, you need to reveal them. The way you reveal your abs is by actually lowering the amount of body fat you have over your abs. Everyone has abs. It's simply under that small layer of fat. Most people can't see their abs because they're at a higher body fat percentage. If you want to be able to actually see your abs, you just need to lower your body fat percentage, and then you'll be able to see your abs clearly. One thing you need to understand about getting abs is that you can't spot reduce body fat. So a lot of people think doing crunches or doing push-ups will target the fat that's in this specific area, but you can't target where your body takes fat from. The abdomen is one of the last places that your body actually takes fat from. Face starts to get leaner, your neck gets leaner, your legs get leaner, your quads get leaner, your back gets leaner, your glutes get leaner. Everywhere else will get leaner first, and then your body will start tapping into the body fat that's actually in your abs. So a lot of people make the mistake of just looking at this one area. They're just looking at this one area. Am I getting leaner? Am I getting leaner? But they forget that there's also body fat in your face, there's body fat in your back. You need to start checking all areas in your body and see the progress that you're making. So how do you actually reduce your body fat percentage and get lean enough to see your abs? Well, we've all heard it. Calories in, calories out. And this is so true. But this is how you know exactly how many calories you're burning. Firstly, you want to calculate your TDEE. Your TDEE is your total daily energy expenditure. This is the amount of calories it takes to maintain your body weight. What you're going to do is you're going to go to an online calorie calculator. I linked it in the description below. And you're going to put in your height, weight, age, and general activity level. What this does is it will estimate how many calories you're actually burning on a day-to-day basis. So you're going to take this rough estimate. For me, it was 3,000 calories because I'm quite active. And you're going to subtract 500 calories from this number. You get 2,500 calories per day. This is how many calories you should be eating per day to lose body fat sustainably. Now what I want you to do is actually start tracking the food that you're eating on a day-to-day basis and start tracking the calories. You might be saying, how am I supposed to know how many calories are in this food or in that food? Well, that's where your calorie tracker comes in. You can use MyFitnessPal or Cal AI. The reason I recommend Cal AI is because they have a photo feature where you can actually just take a photo of your food and AI will evaluate the calories. Now the next thing that you need to track is very important, because that was a rough estimate of how many calories you burning on a day-to-day basis. We don't know the actual number, but this is how you verify the actual number. You want to be tracking your weekly average weight. The reason I say weekly average is because your weight fluctuates every single day, but if we take in the average, it's more accurate. So you want to weigh yourself every single day. You want to take all those numbers and divide that by 7. It'll give you your average weight for the week. Now you want to compare week 1 average to week 2 average and see, are you going down in weight slowly and sustainably? If you're going down slowly and sustainably, then boom, it means you were in a calorie deficit and you're actually losing body fat. If your weight isn't moving, if your weight is exactly the same, then it means you're not in a calorie deficit. So take that number and lower your calories a little bit more. For me, that would be 2,500. I would want to lower that number by about 200 to 300 more calories, and then if I start losing weight, then perfect. You actually don't want to lose weight too quickly, because if you're losing weight too fast, it means that you're also tapping into muscle. You're probably losing muscle. So you don't want to actually be losing weight too quickly. You want it to be very slowly. Scientifically, you want to be losing about 1% of your body weight a week. For me, I started the cut at 90 kgs body weight. So I don't want to be losing any more than 900 grams per week. Otherwise, I'm probably losing muscle and I'm running into a whole bunch of issues. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to increase your output. Now, my output was very high because I'm a sportsman. I do a whole bunch of sports. If you're not active at all, what you want to actually do is start getting 10,000 steps a day. You can use a fitness tracker like this, or you can just use your phone. I know on iPhones there's a fitness app, there's a health app that can actually track your steps. Let's say you're at 3,000 steps. you going from 3,000 steps to 6,000 steps, that's already a big enough jump for you to see progress. And then when you stop seeing progress, go from 6,000 steps to 8,000 steps, and then from 8,000 to 10,000, you'll start seeing progress as you increase your calorie expenditure. Really, there's two ways to create a calorie deficit. That's increasing your output, the amount of calories you're burning on a day-to-day basis, or you can lower your input, which is the amount of food that you're eating on a day-to-day basis, the actual calories. The best would be to do some kind of combination between the two. Increase your output slightly and lower your calories slightly. But the best way is low-intensity cardio. Don't do high-intensity stuff like running. Stick to low-intensity stuff like walking, because walking you can stick to on a day-to-day basis and you can do every single day consistently. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the weight you're losing is actually body fat. You don't want to lose muscle. So you want to be having at least 2.2 grams of protein per kg of body weight. So if you weigh 70 kgs, you actually want to be having 154 grams of protein. If you hit your protein goal, your body will be able to build back the muscle stronger and you'll be tapping into body fat instead of muscle. If your protein is too low, you will lose muscle. There's actually a time I went to my home country. I went to live with my grandma. So I was eating all the food that she was sort of preparing, and her protein intake is pretty low. So mine also suffered. And because I was in a calorie deficit, I actually lost a whole bunch of muscle during that time. But when I came back here and I increased my protein intake, I noticed that I built back the muscle I lost when I was there. It's more important when you're in a calorie deficit to have high protein, because high protein means that you'll be able to hold on to that muscle mass and your body will tap into fat. If your protein is low, you will lose muscle, guaranteed. You want to follow the 80-20 rule when it comes to diet. A lot of people do these strict diets, but once you've got your protein intake dialed in, just make sure 80% of the food you're eating is coming from clean, whole, organic foods, things like lean meats, eggs, and then the 20% can come from things that you actually enjoy. A lot of people like to cut out snacks or sugary treats. If you're tracking your calories, just make sure you've got a little bit of room for things that you actually enjoy. So whether that's biscuits, cake, make sure there's a little bit of room each day so that you're having that satisfaction. Because if you go on this strict diet, you won't be able to stick to the diet for long enough. And the most important factor when it comes to diet is how long can you stick to it? Are you enjoying this diet? If you're not enjoying the diet, you can't stick to it. So you're just going to fall off and go back to your old ways. So just make sure that 80% of the time you're eating clean, whole, organic foods, and 20% of the time you can have a snack. You can have something that you enjoy, whether that's ice cream bar or something, but just make sure it's not more than 20% of your calories, and you include it and you track those in your calories. You have to be tracking the amount of weight you're doing and the amount of reps you're doing. It means you'll be able to know how much weight and reps you did last week so that you can try and beat that, whether it's by adding an extra 1 or 2 reps or whether it's by increasing the weight. You have to make sure you're doing better than you did last week. If you can increase your strength or increase your reps in some way and you're progressive overloading, I can guarantee you hold on to that muscle. If your gym sessions are bad, you are likely to lose muscle. But if your gym sessions are good and you're progressive overloading, you are holding on to muscle, if not even building muscle. Because really the goal is body recomp. You want to lose body fat and you want to hold on to that muscle. If you're just losing muscle on the cut, then what's the point? You're losing weight, you're looking like a smaller, skinnier, weaker version of yourself. That's not the goal. The goal is to body recomp. We want to look sculpted. Focus on sleep. You want to be having at least 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep. Sleep is so important, especially when you're in a calorie deficit, because when you have good sleep, you're able to lose the fat and keep the muscle. I'll tell you of a story of a time when I was traveling. It was about 2 weeks worth of travel and my sleep schedule was just horrendous because we were driving a lot, and then when you're in a different bed, your sleep is not that good. So I was having like 5 to 6 hours of sleep at that time. My sleep quality wasn't good and I was tracking my calories. Everything was dialed in. I was in that calorie deficit. I had decent protein, but in my progress photos and in the scale weight, I wasn't making any progress. In the progress photos, I actually looked bloated in some of the photos and I actually looked like I was gaining weight. But your body can't tap into fat when your sleep isn't dialed in because your cortisol's through the roof. You're stressed. You have to get good sleep, 7 to 8 hours. Even if you're in a calorie deficit, if your sleep is horrendous, you will start losing muscle. You'll notice this. You lose muscle, you won't be losing fat. You have to track your progress, not just with the scale weight. A lot of people make the mistake of tracking the scale weight. I used to do this, but there was a time my scale weight was sticking. It was 80 kgs, but I also had progress photos and I could see in the progress photos I was losing body fat, but all my lifts in the gym were getting stronger. So even though the weight was staying the same, my body recomposition was changing. You can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. Your scale will stay the same, but you're actually still making progress. That's why you can't rely on just the scale, because the scale can't tell you if it's fat that you're losing, if you're gaining muscle. If it's it sticks, it doesn't mean that your progress is sticking. It just means that you might be building muscle and losing body fat at the same rate, so your weight is the same. The next thing is to completely shift your identity. You want to start seeing yourself as a version of you who you're becoming. For me, I had to start seeing myself with a six-pack long before I had a six-pack, and I envisioned myself and saw this is who I'm becoming. And in my mind, after a while of doing that, I started to believe that this is who I am. And during those weekdays when I didn't feel motivated, there were some weekdays I just didn't feel like getting my steps in. I didn't feel like tracking calories. And then I remembered that picture that I had in my head of me with a six-pack. And for some reason, I just had like a sense of motivation that that's who I'm becoming and that's who I am. And because I believed that's who I am in my mind, I was able to do what that version of me would be doing, which is tracking calories, going to the gym. If I truly believe that, nah, this is not for me, this is not who I am, deep down, and I believe that I was the chubby version of myself, during those days when I didn't have motivation, I would completely give up and I would just revert back to who I was, because that's who I believed I was. But because I believed deep down in my head that I am that six-pack version of myself, I did what that six-pack version of myself would do. And that is so powerful. A lot of people underestimate this. You must change your identity to the person you're becoming and not who you are now. Because who you are today has led you to being that chubby version of yourself. If you believe you are the six-pack version of yourself, you wouldn't be here today. So you have to shift your mind and start looking at yourself like that best version of yourself with the six-pack. And that's who you have to believe you are.